I'm Elaine Cercado. I am a trainer, a coach, and a director of Power in You Philippines. I welcome you to this webinar, The Emotional Intelligence Experience. This complimentary webinar is brought to you by Power in You. Power in You is a training, coaching, and consulting company in the Philippines. Our mission is to partner with organizations to enable them to deliver strong results by enhancing their talent and leadership through value-adding strategic consulting solutions and services. Let me now introduce our guest speaker for tonight. Our speaker, Benji, is the president of Power in You. He is a certified coach by Marshall Goldsmith Stakeholder-Centered Coaching. He's also certified to do the Global Leader Assessment of Marshall Goldsmith. Benji attended coaching program certified by the International Society of Neurosemantics, and he is an emotional intelligence facilitator of Genus International and a strengths deployment inventory facilitator of Total SDI. Benji's forte includes developing and executing business-driven human resource strategies, leadership and talent development, organization change, and employee rewards. He has worked with many multinationals in the Philippines and across Asia Pacific. And right now, Benji is passionate about helping senior leaders become more successful in living more satisfying personal as well as professional lives through training, consulting, and coaching. Everyone, let us all welcome our speaker, Benji Garcia.
Thank you for joining us on this webinar. All right. I'd like to start off this particular webinar by setting the context for what we're going to do during the course of the next 30 or so minutes. We all live in a different world of work nowadays. There's an expectation to do more with less. We're pretty much connected 24/7 through thanks to technology. There's an ever-increasing demand for work, which also increases our stress level. And certainly the complexity and uncertainty of work that we're doing right now continues to increase at an ever increasing pace. In fact, there's a word that has actually been coined. You might be familiar with that. It's called VUCA. I actually talked about it in my last webinar on change management. It's a term that was actually borrowed from the US military, and the 4 letters actually stand for 4 adjectives that talk about today's world. V actually represents the volatility or volatile world that we have right now. U stands for uncertainty. C is for complexity or complex. And the last, A, for the ambiguity that we now experience in today's world. Certainly, the presence of new technology is impacting on all of us nowadays. And so what is the impact of all of this? The last point in this slide, number 8, actually says that the more we experience all of these things, this VUCA environment that we have to live in, emotions are now playing an even stronger or bigger role in organizational performance. This is not to say that emotions were not important in the past. It's really just saying that in the past, we even thought about the absence of emotions in the work environment, thinking that we can all be purely rational beings once we step into the office. But the reality is the emotion always has been there. It's just that we have not really paid a lot of attention to it. That's the reason why the World Economic Forum actually predicts emotional intelligence to be one of the top 10 employment skills of the future. The jobs of the future mentions emotional intelligence among the social skills that are actually necessary. In fact, there's a recent article published by LinkedIn that validates the same report or the same results, social skills being another important element as part of what we call, in addition to what is called the rising technical skills due to the new technology that we have that we're now encountering. And what is important to note in that particular article is that the study was actually based on Asia Pacific alone. So essentially, the two studies that are mentioned are really validating the importance of these social skills, which includes emotional intelligence. Okay, we're going to get ready for our exercise. We call this webinar Emotional Intelligence Experience. It's not going to be an experience unless we have some activity. And if you remember, as mentioned by Elaine a while ago, we ask you to bring with you some sheets of paper and a pen. I hope you actually have those in front of you right now. And we know that we have some attendees who are actually joining us as a group. So I hope they can still join individually. Okay, let's get started with this emotional intelligence experience. First off, I'd like you to think of your best ever boss. I think most of our attendees are already working. So if you could think of the best ever manager or leader you have worked for, if you can think of a best ever leader, think of a best ever coworker, mentor, teacher that you have encountered in your career, in your life. Assuming that person is not seated next to you right now, you may want to type or write their name on that piece of paper. That's the purpose of the paper that we ask you to have ready, and underline that name. If it so happens that you're in a group, you may not. You can actually skip this one. Just keep it in mind who that person is. You may not want to reveal that name to persons that you are seated next to. That's okay. Let's go to the next activity. What we'll be doing now is I'll ask you to actually give scores to this best ever boss. I'll just call it best ever boss, even if it's a coworker, mentor, coach, or teacher that you have, on 6 statements. And for each of these statements, I'd like you to assign a score. The score is actually what you'll find at the bottom of the screen. It's a low of 1 and a high of 5, based on how significantly or how significantly less you've actually observed this person to demonstrate this particular behavior. So the first statement that I'd like you to assign a score for this best ever boss is the first one, demonstrating awareness of their mood and emotions. So simply stated, does this person frequently demonstrate awareness of how they're feeling at the moment, particularly when it's an unpleasant mood or an unpleasant emotion? They have that presence of mind to sense whether there's that growing negative or unpleasant feeling that they're beginning to experience, or perhaps being aware of the things that tend to trigger, to use that term, a negative emotion in them. So please write down on that piece of paper, number 1 statement. You don't need to write the whole statement, just write number 1 and assign a score from 1 to 5. You don't need to spend a lot of deep thought assigning that. Typically, whatever score comes to mind would be a good one. The second statement, makes others feel appreciated. So I think we all can understand this expression, this term, this behavior, demonstrating appreciation for people who have done a good job, particularly at work. How does this person demonstrate that? So there are different ways that this is actually expressed depending on the individual and perhaps depending on us as well. So please assign a score. Again, choose between 1 and 5, 1 to 5. Let's move to the third one. This best ever boss, how often do you see him expressing openness and honesty about mistakes? When something goes wrong, is this person ready and willing to admit a mistake, taking accountability for it? The fourth one is about making ethical decisions, doing what's right, not necessarily doing what is convenient or what is expedient. In this case, this is about making the right decision. So again, assign a score depending on how you've observed this best ever boss compared to typical or to others. Number 5, manages their emotions effectively in difficult situations. Usually this means that it's a stressful situations, a stressful environment, usually one that where there's conflict that is present, there's an issue that is brewing, and people who are able to do this well are those who are able to actually pause, perhaps do certain things, take a deep breath, maybe count 1 to 10, maybe even adjourn a meeting or take a break from a meeting to be able to manage their emotions. And then statement number 6, how significantly does this best ever boss recognize other people's hard work and achievement? So again, similar to appreciation, there are different ways, many ways, wherein recognition can be given. So this best ever boss, how have you observed this person in terms of demonstrating recognition for hard work and achievement of others? We're not done yet. We'll move to the next step. What I'd like to do now, having completed the assignment of scores for these 6 statements, I'd like you to total the score and either draw a line for under that rating or encircle that rating so we can easily pick up. We'll get back to that in a short while. Let's move to the next part of our activity. Still on that best ever boss. I'd like you to think about how you felt being around this person, or how does this best ever boss make you feel? So in that paper, maybe underneath the rating or somewhere in that paper where you've written the scores, I'd like you to write down the feelings or emotions that come to mind when you think of this person. Maybe the top 2 or 3 emotions that easily come to mind. How do you feel when you think about this person? How did it feel when you were around this person? Okay, when you've done this, can you please type okay again on the chat box, just to make sure that you're with me on this, and before we proceed to the next part. Good. Okay, thank you for staying with me on this. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. For this last part on the best ever boss, we introduced the term discretionary effort, but let me briefly explain that. This discretionary effort is simply being willing to go the extra mile. So oftentimes we're asked to deliver on certain expectations, output. We know what the expectation would be, and discretionary effort is that additional effort that we're willing to offer above and beyond what is required. All right? So keeping that definition in mind, I'd like you to assign a score on how well this best ever boss has motivated you to go the extra mile. And for this particular step, our scale is actually from 1 to 10. There are the upper and the lower ranges of the scale are actually enclosed in red boxes, just to give you some feel for the range. So 8 to 10 would be the upper range, okay, and 1 to 3 would be the lower range, where you're not motivated to go the extra mile. 8 to 10 would be where you are highly motivated to go the extra mile for this best ever boss. All right. So if there is a best ever boss, the next one is about the worst ever boss or co-worker or mentor that you have encountered, that you have worked with. So similar process to what we did for the best ever boss. Think of the person's name. You may not want to write the name, so just make sure you keep that person's name in mind. So that's optional if you don't want to write the name, especially if you're seated in a group. And with that person in mind, we'll go through the same process. First statement, again, the same scale from 1 to 5. From your experience, how has that worst ever boss demonstrated awareness for his or her mood and emotions? Second statement, makes others feel appreciated. So this worst ever boss, how have you observed this person in terms of appreciating others? I'll move a little bit faster. You're quite familiar with the way this works now. Statement number 3 is open and honest about mistakes. So owning up to mistakes, acknowledging the mistake if it happens. What has been your experience in regards to this behavior as far as this worst ever boss, co-worker, mentor, coach, teacher is concerned? Fourth, making ethical decisions, doing the right thing. Again, assign worst ever boss a score on this particular behavior between 1 to 5. Number 5, manages their emotions effectively in difficult situations. What has been your experience? What has been your observation? How does the worst ever boss behave when confronted by a crisis situation, a conflict situation, stress levels are high? And the last statement, recognizing others' hard work and achievement. How have you observed this person in terms of recognizing others for their hard work and achievements? So, same thing with the best ever boss. After you've completed scoring, I'd like you to add up your scores for these 6 items, and you can underline the rating, the total, or encircle the total. We'll get back to it in a short while. Okay, let's continue. So same thing. For the worst ever boss, what kind of feelings or emotions come to mind when you remember being around this person or this person being around you? What are the perhaps top 2 or 3 emotions that come to mind? Write it down. You know, just thinking about the persons, whether it's the best ever boss or the worst ever boss, somehow the emotions can easily come back. It's as if you're in that situation again. That's the power of emotions. Last step for the worst ever boss. Again, on discretionary effort, willingness to go the extra mile for this person. Please assign a score between 1 to 10, 1 and 10, 10 being the highest, or 8 to 9 being on the range of the upper scale, and 1 and 3 on the lower end. So if you're encountering some strong emotions because of the worst ever boss, you may want to take a few deep breaths, count to 5, calm down. All right. Let's move to how do we process this activity now? Well, that's where I'll ask you to type in your scores. Okay. So let's start. So we don't confuse the scores. Let's start with the best ever boss. Could you please type on the chat box the total? So so we get a sense of what scores people actually got. So I see 29s, 30s, 26, 28. Any more? Okay, 28, 25 so far the lowest, 26, 26, 26, yes. 28, yeah. So if you do the math, actually, if you gave your best ever boss a rating of 5, which is the highest, on all 6, the maximum would be 30. So assuming you only gave 4, that would be a total of 24. So typically, for the best ever boss, when we've done this for other groups, the range would be somewhere between 24 and 30. Okay. Yeah, there are people who have actually assigned a score of 30 to their best ever boss. Okay. Very good. So more or less it's consistent with what we've seen with other groups. Now, let's move to the worst boss or the worst ever boss. Please type your scores. So I hope everyone's seeing those scores, 9s, 6s, 11, 6. So far, I think, 18, okay? That's the highest so far I've seen, 16, 10, thank you. Keep them coming. 14. A colleague of mine actually said when this exercise was done for an international group, there was actually a question that says, can we assign negative scores to the worst boss? So hopefully nobody seems to have done that here. No, you're all sticking to the rules within 1 to 5 only. Yeah, okay, so 16, 14, I think 18 was the highest. So in those scores alone, we'll actually see that there is a marked difference between how we actually score the best ever boss and the worst ever boss on those 6 behaviors alone. Okay. Let's move to the emotions. Okay, so let's start with the best ever boss. What sort of emotions came to mind? How did it feel being around this person? Can you please type in some of the emotions that you wrote down? Happy, fun, amazing, secure, safe, yes. Yeah, I think there's a video by Simon Sinek talks about leaders make you feel safe. Self-assured, appreciated, comfortable, appreciated, safe, thank you very much. Yes, so very pleasant, very positive emotions come to mind, are associated when you have this best ever boss. Motivated, encouraged, inspired, yes. Okay. All right. So let's move to the worst boss. Okay. This is where I think we give people a little bit more time to calm down. So, okay, anger, disgust, stress, fear, being toxic, negative, resentment, demotivated, frustrated, yes. I wouldn't, as I said earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if those emotions sort of make you, remind you so vividly about your experience working with that person. Discouraged, insecure, fearful, unsure, angry. Okay, so you have quite a number of unpleasant or negative emotions that are associated with the worst ever boss. Good. Thank you. Mentally drained. Yes, that's true. Yeah. It's very tiring. Okay, when you have to deal with that particular kind of boss. Okay. All right, let's go to, thank you very much. Let's go to the last piece. Let's talk about discretionary effort. How willing were you to actually go the extra mile for the best ever boss? Can you please type your scores? Okay, we have someone with a score of 3. I wish we had an opportunity to understand what that 3 meant, but majority would be 9s. Keep it coming. Yeah, mostly 9s. I saw a 10 a while ago. Yeah. So when you are working with somebody that you feel very comfortable, very motivated, what's the tendency? You're willing to actually go the extra mile. You're willing to put in the discretionary effort. Right? Thank you. Okay, and to finish up, let's go to the worst ever boss. Please type in your scores. What score did you give? How much did this worst boss motivate you to go to the extra mile? Oh, we have some 8s and 6. All right. Mostly 3s, but you do have 6s and 8s. Okay. The worst colleague can't bring me down. Okay. 8 because I still want to be better. Yes. Thank you. That's Milan. You might say, how does that work? Why is it that for the worst boss, a good number of you, in fact, surprisingly, actually gave higher scores? Congratulations. That's actually could be an indication of a certain level of emotional intelligence maturity. What are you able to do is to utilize that challenging situation to actually better yourself, as someone actually typed up. So it's more a reflection of you learning how to deal with it maturely, and that's an indication of emotional intelligence, rather than being at the mercy or influenced negatively by how you felt about your worst ever boss. There's also a scenario where this is actually done on a face-to-face basis, that you have people who will actually perform at their best out of spite. It's basically out of spite. And if we had an opportunity, we'd ask, how many of you who actually performed the discretionary effort at 8 to 10 subsequently turned in your resignation just to prove him wrong? And that's also a scenario that can explain why some people would actually do it. It's like, I'll show you, I'm gonna do my best, and you'll regret it when I actually turn in my resignation. Yes, so it's typically one of the two. You know? You're either demonstrating your maturity, looking at it from a positive situation and learning from it, or another way would be to show that person that you're really good, followed by a resignation. I think I can recall some of my own experience with the second one also during my younger years. Okay, well, firstly, thank you very much for participating in that activity. Let's try to connect that now to the topic. That's the emotional intelligence experience. Why is that important? Well, very simply, I'm getting a signal for my time limit now. But essentially, what really happens with emotions is that the emotional part of the brain actually receives the signals faster than the thinking brain, and therefore, as the emotional brain tries to process whether what the signal that it's picking up is going to be a useful or threatening before it gets to your thinking or rational brain or the executive brain. And that's why we normally still have that emotions that come to mind even before we're able to process that the event that we are experiencing. And that means that whether consciously or unconsciously, our decisions are affected by our decisions, and behavior are actually affected by our emotions. We may not be conscious of that at all. We may actually think in some cases that we're being perfectly rational with our decision. But the truth is, emotions influence our decisions, our behavior, and our performance. And that's why this quote from Maya Angelou actually is very, very appropriate. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Because that part of how you made them feel is something that registers in the emotional part of the brain. And that tends to be more associated with long-term memory. And why is that important? Because the way people feel will also determine how well they can engage. So you'll notice that as we go through this VUCA world, how we feel on a day-to-day basis, and we're actually bombarded by a lot of emotions throughout the day. We may not even be conscious of that. It will actually affect how engaged we are with the work that we're doing. In fact, it's not just work. Even in our personal relationships, it's actually affected by how we are actually feeling, the emotions that we go through throughout the day. So essentially, emotional intelligence is really about managing how people feel. The founder of Genus International, Dr. Ben Palmer, actually defines emotional intelligence as about making intelligent responses to negative or unpleasant emotions and using specific skills to generate positive or pleasant emotions in the self and others. And on that basis, the model that we actually use is called demonstrated emotional intelligence. Just to wrap it up to the activity that we had before, really talks about the 6 dimensions of the Genus emotional intelligence model. So you'll notice that around these concentric circles are the 6 statements that I actually used in the exercise that we had a while ago. So each one is a dimension of these 6 elements of the genus emotional intelligence, which are self-awareness, awareness of others, authenticity, emotional reasoning, self-management, and inspiring performance. From a leader standpoint, and we know the impact of leaders, their emotions are most contagious. This is how we can actually position the ranges that we talked about a while ago in relation to 6 dimensions. If you want to put some labels to that, for example, in self-awareness, if someone is able to demonstrate, if a leader is able to demonstrate that well, then there's thought being present. And if the person is not demonstrating self-awareness, the opposite range, opposite extreme will be that person feeling disconnected, doesn't know what's going on, doesn't know what's happening. They're the type of person who can be very volatile, can be very warm in one instant, and suddenly some can be triggered to the opposite emotion in a split second. Awareness of others can be someone who is empathetic, okay, or the opposite, or insensitive. Okay. I will not go through that, but you can use that model because that's really what we use to demonstrate the two extremes, ranges of the performance of the person in relation to this model for emotional intelligence. All right. Two quick examples on how emotional intelligence has actually impacted on engagement and performance. These are drawn from actual studies that were done. This first one actually is a study done with a global pharmaceutical company. They actually conducted emotional intelligence training to one group of sales force, and there was a control group for another group of sales force who did not actually undertake emotional intelligence training. So here you'll actually see over a period of time, 3 months, as they were observed, how the sales group that was trained on emotional intelligence, how it impacted their performance compared to the control group. Here's another one for a large consulting, again, another global consulting company. And the way this study was actually done was to look at assess the emotional intelligence of a set of managers. And at the same time, they actually conducted an employee engagement study or survey for their respective teams. And so they actually correlated the distribution of those who are engaged and not engaged with the emotional intelligence scores of their respective leaders. So what you will see here in this distribution scattergram is that those leaders whose emotional intelligence scores actually exceeded 75%, you'll notice that almost everyone, not 100%, but a huge majority of their people are actually engaged, or at least reported being engaged in that employee engagement survey, compared to those leaders whose emotional intelligence scores actually fell below 75. You'll notice that their respective teams are far more dispersed. In fact, a good number of them would be ranging from not engaged to even actively disengaged. So these were two studies done actually by Genos as a way of validating the model and how it actually impacts emotional employee engagement. And for those who are quite into emotional intelligence, I'm sure you've heard there are many other benefits that one can actually develop or obtain through elevating emotional intelligence, from physical, mental health, developing the workplace, as we've seen in the previous case study on employee engagement, coping with stress, and even creativity and innovation is actually affected by emotional intelligence. There was a study that was done. This was done by the Center for Emotional Intelligence of Yale University, that actually said that creativity improvement can only be obtained up to a certain level based on IQ. And what accounted for those who have actually exceeded creativity beyond that level is actually emotional intelligence, not IQ. So we can go on and on discussing emotional intelligence, but I think we can pause here so that there will be opportunities for questions.
Thank you very much, Benji, for that. We are now opening the floor to questions. there's one actually. Do the 6 statements you use in this webinar exercise fully reflect a person's emotional intelligence?
Thank you very much for that question. The exercise that we went through is a very abbreviated activity just to demonstrate how emotional intelligence using the genus model is applied. As you can see, it's meant to focus on what can be demonstrated and observed. In reality, when you talk about the full model, you're actually covering a lot more than those 6 statements. So in other words, no, it's really just giving us a glimpse of what the emotional intelligence of that model actually captures. It's way more than that.
Thanks, Benji. And okay, in consideration of the genus framework for EI, how is this related in Goldman's EI framework? It appears that other of Goldman's emotional competencies are present as well in the genus model. But where do the others fall into? For example, motivation, which is part of the Goldman model.
Yes, thank you for that question. There's no 1:1 correlation or that you can actually match up 1:1 in some cases with the Goldman model. What I can tell you is that the genus model is also one of the few emotional intelligence models that is actually validated by the consortium headed by Daniel Goldman as far as EI is concerned. There are a few, in fact, even before Goldman actually came up with his most popular model on EI, there have actually been earlier models. And from what I know, there are a few that are actually recognized by the consortium headed by Daniel Goldman.
I hope that answers your question, Orly. Another one from Kirsten. Can you give us some characteristics of a person with high emotional intelligence? I think this was touched quite well.
Yes, we can actually start with those 6 questions. Those 6 questions that we use in the exercise, as I said, they don't give you the full range of what the genus model tries to capture. In fact, the assessment tool that was developed based on this Genus International model of EQ or EI consists of about 42 different behaviors that are actually mentioned. So in relation to that, we're only talking about 6 in the exercise that we went through. But it includes, obviously, being able to being aware of one's emotions, being able to observe and being able to be sensitive to the emotions of others, okay? Demonstrating empathy, recognizing the importance or the emotional element in making decisions. That's part of emotional reasoning, the emotional reasoning component, that while we make decisions based on facts, reality is that the emotions of others also need to be taken into consideration. So these are some of the what do you call this? Some of the indications of a person who is high on emotional intelligence. And the reality, I think, just to add to that point that was made, we all are on a journey towards emotional intelligence growth. One never really says I'm a fully evolved individual with the highest scores in all the dimensions. In reality, we all have something to work on as far as emotional intelligence is concerned.
Okay. Last question. Unfortunately, we only have time for one last question. In your personal opinion, is there any significant figure being a popular personality today with high EI? So is there any role model, I guess, that you can name, Benji?
No, I guess I'd rather not mention any individual.
Okay. Well, so Benji doesn't want to name any at this point, but I'm sure you have some that you can think of based on that framework that you learned from this webinar and based on that exercise that you had. Could be your very own boss, or maybe you have someone that you admire that you have witnessed, this demonstrating the EI competencies. There are a few more questions actually that came out, but unfortunately, we cannot accommodate them anymore. So, again, thank you. Thank you very much for everyone who attended tonight. And we hope you enjoyed that and learned a lot. On behalf of Power in You Philippines, I'd like to wish you all a good night and see you again in our next webinar. Bye.